So yeah, you've got sound coming through at the top there. So
Okay.
and you're live on both.
And on two buttons.
Yeah, that's.
Hello and good afternoon, Lindsay from Freedom Media here at the City of Perth Library. We're starting right now at 2 o'clock. We've been here since 1 o'clock, but from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock there is what is put out by the City of Perth as a drag queen story time targeting or aimed at children from 2 years to 8 years old. Now, there, as you can see in the background, there is a large number of people that have come out, many of them parents. We've heard some of the comments that they've been saying from here, and they're coming out and exercising their concern about having drag queens, adult entertainers performing that perform in places like just down the road from here, the Court Hotel, over in Northbridge Connection Hotel in Perth, Western Australia, and they're now reading stories to the children. Now, the City of Perth, they did shut down their Facebook page in relation to this, turned off comments citing that it didn't meet community standards. One of the things that we did earlier today was come in to see if we could get a comment and a statement off camera, but engage in a conversation with the event organiser of the City of Perth. So we were told, yes, that they would welcome that. And I guess we're taking that from the basis of this. In my hand here is the position statement that the City of Perth have forwarded out to people that have written in the last few weeks about this event that has just started, and of particular note down the bottom, it ends by saying, and I'm just going to read from here: "We thank you for your feedback, and through open dialogue and understanding, we can continue to grow and serve our community better." And that's exactly the premise in which we asked if we could engage in that open dialogue, just to get a better understanding from the city's viewpoint as to how they see that an event like this, fits in with the objectives that the City of Perth are looking to do. We did have questions asking around, has this event been tabled in a council chamber meeting? And I asked that because in here they say that the City of Perth strategy, the community plan, which should be a public record document aligning with their vision to create a vibrant, livable and inclusive city. And it goes on to say that they're committed to a LGBTQIA plus plan which underpins delivering inclusive programs. Now, we had some questions around what does that plan look like? Has that plan been tabled at council meeting? And if it's meant to be inclusive, from the very, and we understand, at least an hour beforehand, and we had people that came and spoke to us at the initial outset when we first arrived, telling us that they were denied from 12 o'clock onwards, they have been denied access to the public library here in Perth, Western Australia. So just down here, which you can't quite see, we're only just a stone's throw away from Governor's House, in fact, and that's what we have here. So we did have some questions to see if we could at least, have a conversation around the plan, how that looks out, and how inclusive is an event like this when you can see straight away we were confronted with 4 security staff on arrival. There is 8 police, at least 8 police that have turned up on the bike police, which you quite have seen frequently during some of the pro-choice anti-mandate rallies. You see the heavy presence of the bike police, 4 security inside, paid here, and at the exclusion of the people that you can see in the background. So we're going to our intent today is to see if we can get some comments as to what that inclusion looks like. And I guess we don't, we'd certainly encourage stories being read to children, but does the plan consider things like senior citizens reading to young children? Does it include people who may have other life experiences that may, I'm not sure what the descriptive word might be, but let's say more conventional, that may be able to add value in reading stories to children? And but I guess the question is a line crossed when you have what is, I guess, predominantly accepted that drag queens is an adult-based entertainment platform where they do whatever they do at their drag queen shows. So hopefully, I'm just going to see if I can get a nod that we've got some comments coming through, and the stream is all tickety-boo. And yeah, it's a thumbs up from there. So again, this position statement here, we are looking to try and see if we can get some comments. We were told the event coordinator, Grace, that she would be coming down to talk to us. We waited probably half an hour for her to come down. And the person that we engaged with then did say that she's glad to hear that we're here to have this open dialogue as per the City of Perth's position statement in relation to this event. But unfortunately, Grace, after 30 minutes, I went inside to follow up and ask, is Grace going to come down to us? And the answer was no. The initial person that was talking to Grace, she wouldn't come out to tell us either that Grace wasn't coming down. So I'm not sure if the cameras can actually see. You can see there's at least 6 City of Perth Rangers patrolling around the building. You have a number of police inside, and you have a number of security guards and all that around here. So we are going to just move around and just see if we can just get some comments. We're looking, we're happy to take comments on whichever side of this event that you may see that your particular viewpoint aligns with, as long as it's done, as the event organisers no doubt will and have asked for, that it's done in a safe and a non-aggressive, non-threatening manner. And I will say we did see a number of children. We saw a group of about, whether it was a daycare excursion or something like that, they were all wearing high-vis vests. Maybe that's the protocol nowadays with a daycare excursion of that nature. There was at least a dozen children that were coming through. We have seen a number of parents. Of course, it's not appropriate to stream the children. Because again, this event targeted at 2-year-old to 8-year-old. That is actually what the City of Perth, what their poster and their promotional material on social media, if you look up on Facebook, that is the recommended age group that they're chasing for. I guess one of the questions would have been, in terms of inclusiveness for those 2 to 8-year-olds, is, and we're talking about ideologies and concepts of gender fluidity, and would a 2-year-old, would a 4-year-old, would a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old actually understand what that means, what that truly means? So, or is it just the glam and the glitter? So we'll just come through and just see. We'll move around and see if we can get some comments. So it appears the stream is all good. We will show some events now. Just while the doors are open, you can see the security staff there, and from the moment we walked inside the door, in a non-threatening manner, we were pretty much pounced on by security, so by the security staff, and then we were told to leave. So we just simply pointed out to them that we're asking a question. We would like to engage with the person who's organising this event, perhaps the person that wrote this position statement, and so they did do that. But whilst we were waiting there, the security have come up and they have said, we are asking media to leave, and we certainly feel that we fall in the category of media. The difference is we show this in real time, we show it unscripted, we show it unedited, and that is the difference. There is some mainstream media. We might move around to the front now and see if we can see some mainstream media. Hello, good afternoon. We're live streaming. Would anybody like to comment about, do you know why people have gathered here today?
I'm all good, thank you.
You're all good? No? And yourself, do you know why people, yeah, no comment? No? Okay. Hello there. We are live streaming.
I'm
Would
not
you?
interested in your fascist media. Fuck off.
Okay, so that's a very, very inclusive comment that you've just provided there.
Yeah, I'm not inclusive towards fuck. Inclusive.
So we're
towards
trying to get an
fascism.
understanding that the City of Perth, with this event, is encouraging open dialogue just here. What part of the open dialogue? I mean, I understand what fuck off
I'm not
means.
having open dialogue with a fascist. So fuck off.
Why would you not want to do that? I'm not saying I'm a fascist. I'm here to get anybody's point of view, anybody's opinion.
Well, go talk to them because they're the ones who you fucking.
Well, I'm talking to you at the moment.
You were there at the fucking Posse Parker protest?
I'm media. I'm independent media.
No, you're not. You're freedom media. You're right.
Which is an independent media. That's right. So, yeah, and at Posey Parker. So
my media, Green Left, is more independent than you fuckers.
Okay. So there we go. That is the tolerant left again. And I might say that that particular person was one of the person that prevented me from moving through. So you can see the crowd that has gathered just here. And we are talking about... Hello there. So you can see the crowd that's gathered here, talking about this. So we have mainstream, which looks like Channel 9 just here, and covering this particular event. And we're going to see if we can just get some comments. So we'll just let the camera take in some of the scenes here at the moment, whilst we do. And just ask.
Sorry. How are you? How are you, buddy?
Very, very well. So we are live streaming at the moment.
I'm
So
shared with Channel 9 about how Japan is actually agreeing with God's plan that there is male and female.
right. Okay. I'll come and chat. So we can just see.
I just think we should look through to not getting politically involved.
So that's actually live stream.
Just what happens at other ones. That's the thing.
So
If you want to try and get that again, because I know I don't really speak very well sometimes. No, we can do that. We can do that again.
So you're happy to comment about the particular event here?
Yeah, I just think it's a hypocrisy, because it's a double standard. I think that, like, to have a city promote how do you say, if the city was promoting an anti-gay story time for children, that would be wrong. So why is it okay to be the other way around? I just think that's a very slippery slope, because the way things aren't always going to be. So in 10 years' time, it could be a very different political atmosphere in the public, and that type of
Fair comment.
That type of story where it's not okay to be gay, being read to kids could be a reality, and this kind of sets a precedent to let that be okay when you let these type of politics in the city coincide together.
So just to clarify, when you say that this sets a precedent that this type of thing is okay, so you're speaking that you feel there should be more events like this, or
no, I just not by the city. Like these type of events can occur, of course, but just in private venues. It just shouldn't be, or not only that, it just shouldn't be funded by the city. That's all.
What do you think of the targeted demographic, the age group of the children that are to
Very
2 to 8 years old.
Yeah, very wrong. Very confusing age to be reading these type of books to them. And I just think it's very wrong for the city to be funding that.
Thank you very much for your comments. Hello there. We just heard.
No, thank you.
Slightly interested in speaking.
No, thank
So
you.
there's no open dialogue. You don't.
I don't speak to any media.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would there be a reason for that?
No, thank you. No comment.
Well, I appreciate that your language is a lot better than the mouth coming over from this person here.
no, we support
but thank you
that
very
too.
much. Yeah, do you? That's great. That's a good indictment for the youth.
Have a good day.
No worries.
I'm not signing any releases, so
No
please.
worries.
Yeah.
We're not asking you to sign a release.
Are you just a martyr?
I don't see a single fucking Nazi turning up to any of the events. Right, so it's not pedophilia.
You want to be paid on our stance? Hold on, we have a moral conviction.
I appreciate everything you do. What rights do you want to take the mask off?
No, I don't.
This conversation because I don't
Well,
feel
actually, to
comfortable.
be honest, I thought you and I would just have a conversation.
Yeah, and this is why I'm pissed off because these fuckheads keep coming in and
Well,
interrupting.
there's no need to use that kind of language. It's just
Oh, so the Nazi coming up and calling people the F word, you don't tell him that there's no need for that
for the
language.
moment-
But me calling the fuckhead a fuckhead,
Hang on,
you
I
said
just-
that there's no need for that sort
I've
of
just said straight out right that I want to have the conversation with you and not that.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So, quite frankly,
What about if the shoe was on the other
We're
foot?
having a conversation. Can you just leave it?
Sure. What about if the
So
shoe
I
was
said,
on the
"Can
other
you
foot?
leave it?" Which is implying that I don't want to answer your questions. I'm having a conversation
Hey,
with
you
him.
talk.
If you could just stop, I can have a conversation with him. If you want to listen to that, that's fine. But I'm not talking to you.
Thank you.
I've got a question. Now, several times you've said about Nazis, okay? You
Yeah.
keep mentioning Nazis.
Yeah.
Now, the reality is, okay,
Do you mind not shoving that in my
I
face?
stand here.
You did it to me. You did it to
Right.
me. You came up to me asking me Nazi questions.
I didn't have a
Mate,
microphone.
let's just talk. Let's just
Yeah.
talk. Okay? Now, ultimately, I don't stand with Nazis. I have actually no issues that I would want to. There's absolutely no time I would ever want to spend with
I reckon this guy's a pedophile.
So there you go. You can see the scene, the mood that's starting to be set here. And so what that particular gentleman was saying, that he's taking effect that this person here has called him a fuckhead, and he took offence to that particular language, where you've all seen in terms of the live stream, the first words out of the person of the mouth there was fuck off. So it doesn't seem that there is some equity or parity in relation to the approach. We're here to try and get that open dialogue, that open conversation, to see what actually can go on in that. And again, I'd come back to the position statement of the City of Perth in response to this event is that they encourage open dialogue. And from the get-go, we have not seen any of that open dialogue despite making approaches to engage in that dialogue. So, and that's pretty much what we're talking about here. And you can see the mood. It's very hard to explain on the ground here. There's a lot of tension in the air in relation to this, and we can just see if we can get. G'day there. I see that you're taking photographs there. Yeah. So and is that for out in Perth? And what do you think in terms of like inclusiveness?
I'm here and reporting on it. I'm not commenting on it.
Okay, no worries. So you can see that it didn't take a lot to actually kick off. Clayton. You might just go and see where that lady's standing. You might just go and stand there. Okay. Yeah, right with it. Just.
Say something else.
Well, do you mind? Can we get a comment from you? No. Yeah. No. So there's no inclusiveness at all or open dialogue in relation to an event like this?
I think this is just ridiculous because they're drawing their own conclusions, their own connections, which have no basis in fact or statistics from our state.
Okay. So what? I mean, what exact part? What's ridiculous? I mean, provide some understanding in terms of the demographic, for example. That sits okay. 2 to 8-year-old children's being read stories by drag queens, adult entertainers, performers that perform in other venues that clearly are not even 18. You wouldn't be able to get into that. How do you feel on that?
We are all adults that engage in adult things every day, and we are able to separate adult things from when we're with children, and we obviously drop what we're doing as adult things and we adjust ourselves accordingly to when we're children. That's all of you do that. Yeah? To think someone else, just because they have different beliefs to you, isn't able to make that same distinction and separate adult acts from engaging with children is ludicrous. The fact that there is no actual statistical or anything from our actual background to say, well, we're seeing that this is happening. Show me the proof, show me the evidence that this is a problem and that this is what's happening, that drag queens are actually doing this. Instead, I saw a post by groups on this side over here that's against this, that had changed the actual content from other websites that were advertising this event to make it look sexual when it wasn't at all. So they have made their own things and their own connections, not actually sitting there trying to go off factual facts, statistics for this state on what things are.
So I think a lot of what you said is logical. I understand the point that you're making. I guess I'd just like to circle back to when you say, and you're talking about inclusiveness, and you're trying to say, and nobody's trying to, certainly not from what we're trying to do. Nobody's, from any of our crew are suggesting that that shouldn't happen. But do you think a 4-year-old can actually understand the inclusiveness of what a drag queen is actually about?
A drag queen is just someone in an outfit. It's no different to if someone was in a dinosaur costume up there, or what's been done in Hollywood for the last 50 years of people wearing costumes and outfits and being able to change their content to be suitable for the actual age demographic they're advertising to is no different up there. Someone can put on a costume and can sit there and read a book, a G-rated book, and keep the content completely specific to the children, and actually just read something in a costume that is good to look at. They look fabulous. They're just dressed up looking nice and exciting, and so it engages people because it is like any media we watch, any Hollywood media we watch. It's engaging to look at, so we enjoy watching it. That's all it is.
It is, and Hollywood.
Separate adult from child media, and you can be in both medias as long as you don't combine the two medias together.
Yeah.
Just how I'm sure you do adult things in your life, like drinking and going to other things, but would you bring that to your child? No, you separate those things and you don't do it just because you do that.
So you're saying it's possible for a drag queen to have one persona in let's say Connections or the Court Hotel, and have a completely different persona when they're talking to 2 and 8-year-olds. That's possible?
Yes, no different to if you're in a club with your partner, you might dance closely, but would you hold a child that closely when you dance with them? No, you would adjust the way you dance.
Well, mostly if I was to dance
this with your kid, you know
sure.
what I mean, and have a little fun.
Yeah, but you can't, in a licensed premises where you would normally go to dance, you can't take children into licensed premises. So there is a big difference there. When you're talking about...
I know that, but what I was talking about is if you were to dance with your partner in an adult premises, 18 plus, and just dance closely, holding each other, maybe romantically, you wouldn't use that same sort of dance when you're when you're dancing with a kid. You do a fun step away dance just to entertain your kid.
So the drag queen, in this case Cougar Morrison, is an adult professional entertainer, certainly an ambassador for drag at the Court and the Connections Hotel. Would Cougar have the understanding that if one of these, let's say a 4-year-old child asked Cougar today, are you a mummy or a daddy?
Talk to how someone I don't know.
Do you think that a child should be put into a position where they're seeing something that at their young age is contrary to what the norm would be, and if they ask that question, what about that scenario? Do you think
you define norm to me?
Well, a norm that that a child has a mum and a dad at home and now sees all the glam and the glitter.
That sounds like a belief, because we know there's children out with 2 dads and 2 mums. That sounds like a belief of yours, not a factual fact.
Well, I'm just saying, if that scenario...
like you're saying, male and female and homo parents is norm, that would be contrary to the existence of our humanity currently.
Okay, so the persona of a drag queen. I mean, if an event.
That's right. Mate.
Right. So there we go. So and thank you. Yeah, appreciate. Yeah. No abuse. Thank you very much. So trying to get some comments there.
Veterans and stuff. What do you do that? What do you have to be? Here is fucking home to my kids. Hey, what do you have to go for? What's that got to do with children? There's something wrong with you. Something wrong with you. Look at you laughing at it. That's a lunatic too.
More of a free, open.
Okay, so at least we were able to engage in a conversation there and not be abused, I guess, which is somewhat refreshing. So you have to give credit, I guess, to giving his time, and I think that's what we've said from the outset, that we will try and get comments from both sides. So now the buy-in and whether you subscribe to what the narrative is said and so on and so forth is one completely different thing. I just we might just actually, we might just make our way just back in through here. So what you can see now is you can see a presence in the background here. We do have mainstream media here covering this event. They are only getting the shots when tension is at its highest, as it's been so far. And I guess, now the question is, would mainstream media look at the antecedents of a drag queen who is reading stories to children who are between 2 and 8 years old? So now you might ask yourself many questions, and there is in fact an article, let me just bring this up because I am going to refer to this. So this article here, this is produced by the ABC, the national broadcaster. This was published on the 28th of March, where Cougar Morrison, and Cougar, that's the stage name, I guess. Clint Steinberg is Cougar's real name. Cougar Morrison spoke to the ABC and talked about that flyers were distributed prior to this event, and that the community has, the anti-trans activists have gone through Cougar's social media page. It's all here on the ABC, and talking about, and I'll quote here, Cougar Morrison, quote, "They scoured through 4 years of my pictures on Instagram, and they've gone through every single picture and every single caption to find where I've been dressed most sexily, granted in a nightclub, but clubs are allowed children and are not allowed where children are not allowed." That is the 28th of March, an article that Cougar said. And now, the pictures of Cougar scanted claddily aren't just on Facebook, they're also on Instagram. If you check out Cougar Morrison on Twitter, you will find that. Now, Cougar Morrison purports to be a public figure, and when you put yourself out in the public, you put yourself out into a space that you need a thick skin. And if you don't have the skin for those type of comments, then something's going to happen. So I just want to show here, this is Cougar Morrison. This is the same person that right now is reading stories on level 4 to 2 and 8-year-olds. Cougar Morrison posted this post on social media, which can be accessed by anybody, any child, without the knowledge of their parents. This is the antecedents and the mindset of Cougar Morrison. Cougar Morrison says, life is like a bucket of sperm. Sometimes you just need to suck it up. Now I ask you, would you want a person who, as a public figure, makes these type of posts and puts it out on social media and have that person sitting reading stories to 2 and 8-year-olds? So that is one example of what Cougar has, if you like, said to mainstream media a couple of days ago. So in terms of the explicit sexual pictures, now Cougar said in the article that where they've been, or he has been dressed most scantily, is in places like the Court Hotel. This is Cougar Morrison, the same person that's reading the stories to the 2 and the 8-year-olds up at level 4 at the Court Hotel. And you can see in the foreground there are children present watching that. So the comment on the ABC that Cougar Morrison says that when I'm scantily dressed, that it's not in the presence of children, is simply a falsity. That is the proof. That is the proof that is still currently posted on Cougar Morrison's Facebook page. So again, I ask you, now again, you put yourself out as a public figure and you put yourself up to this type of criticism. Cougar Morrison obviously likes donuts because now would you call this, I'm not sure if the camera can get that there, would you call that scantily dressed? I'm not sure, but you can be the judge of that. This is Cougar Morrison, okay, and I think that a lot of time and effort has gone into makeup and hair and things like that. I can certainly appreciate that, but you don't have to dive too far before you find pictures of this nature, which is Cougar Morrison, the same person that's now reading stories on level 8 to children between 2 and 8 years old. So that is the persona of Cougar Morrison. And you've just heard the gentleman at the back there saying that it's possible for a professional drag queen performer to separate their persona when they're interacting with young children. So now I guess that's a very, very interesting proposition. And I just want to leave you with one last photo. Cougar Morrison is Clint Steinberg. This is Clint. Where he openly states that he is an ambassador, a drag queen for Connections, for the Court Hotel. For those not in Perth, Western Australia, they are openly, it's a place for, let's call it a safe space for those that want to perform in the manner that Cougar Morrison would traditionally be accustomed to performing. And it's that type of performance, when it transitions to reading stories to young children, that you see the response that you have now. So we will just...
Which one's the state building person?
Well, yeah, probably... so we'll just get the camera to go around there. So Cougar Morrison, I guess... probably no wonder why you sought to take down events like this as a paid performer, because I certainly, council members of City of Perth, I'd ask you this question. Prior to approving this event, did you know that this is the type of social media post that your paid drag queen is reading children's in your library? So there we go. So we'll talk about, we'll just do a quick pan around of people in the crowd, and I'm just going to jump behind the camera to see. Okay, so just a couple of comments there. There's clearly not kids coming in there. We did see a group of about 12 children coming in and it appeared like a school excursion. Look, even if a group of kids came in, and even if they were with parents, and out of respect, they don't understand what's going on here, and we would not put them on camera. That's not what we're trying to achieve here, and nor would it perhaps, I'd like to ask a parent a comment, but, would it be appropriate to put a little bit more fear into a child? It's bad enough now that a child comes to an event like this, and from the get-go, before the event actually started, there was 4 security guards, 6 City of Perth Rangers, 8 police on bikes, and people being vetted one by one going into the City of Perth Library. So here we go. Here, we're just going to see whether. G'day there. So can I just ask just a comment in relation to the drag queens have all types of persona. Do you think that if you put yourself out as a public figure, that you open yourself up to criticism or not?
I wouldn't really call this criticism though. I would just think this is a lot of stupid people.
I'm not saying that this is criticism.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure. But if you made a statement in public, do you think that, as a public figure, well, any type of statement, if you made a post in public as a public figure, do you feel that you should be able to stand by that statement, or that you might have the need to retract it?
The what, sorry?
You might feel the need to retract it.
What are we retracting though?
Well, so can I ask you this question? Cougar Morrison has done a post saying that life is like a bucket of sperm.
Sure.
Just suck it up.
How long ago was that though?
So the question is that it's public. It's out in the public domain as a public figure made by a person who states that they are a public figure. Do you feel that prior to leading up to an event like this, that this might be something that they might feel inclined to retract?
How long ago was that?
So that's not the question I'm asking. The question is,
if someone did this in their past, it has to carry them through years ago.
So,
because this photo, actually, I'm a friend of Cougar's,
sure,
and that photo was taken a long time ago, and that statement's probably a long time ago. And
sure.
so I don't think.
Let
me finish. I let you talk, so let me finish.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't think it's appropriate that you're bringing up the past in someone's future, and someone's doing something innocent like a drag queen Storytime. And there's all this crazy people saying that she's a groomer, that she's a pedophile, that drag queens are all this crazy stuff. And I completely disagree. And
we're not saying that. We're asking you the question about a statement that this is life in public figure. When you put it out in the public domain, it's open to this type of criticism.
But where are the people criticising it?
So what about if I took you to a comment that Cougar Morrison, being a friend,
yes.
So firstly, you concede that Cougar did make this, but about 4 years ago.
I don't know what time it was, but it was definitely long ago.
Okay. So on the 28th of March, Cougar Morrison did this year. Okay. Yep, I can bring it up with you for the ABC article.
Yep.
My apologies on the permit. We'll continue this conversation another time.
So there we go. So the 28th of March 2023, this is Cougar Morrison talking about the lead up to this event.
Yes.
In here, it says that Cougar feels it's a little unfair that people have looked at producing photographs where have been scantily clad, and says in the article that that all of those articles are from places like the court and connections and things like that. Yeah. So what if I said that that's actually not the case?
Well, if you look at it like, for example...
Or what is Clantley SCAD?
Well, if you think of it like this. Someone like Melissa McCarthy, for example, right? She's a public figure. She does adult comedy, but then now she's also being...
Well, we're not here talking about Melissa McCarthy.
She's a public figure.
We're here asking questions about your friend, Cougar.
She's a public figure, and so is she, correct? So, in the same regard... Huh? No, it's fine. So, for example, go with me.
So, as a friend of Cougar,
yes, tell me.
Do you feel, is that Clantley SCAD?
No, not at all.
It's not?
So this was a private event. I was actually at this event. This is a private event where this was a birthday party. This is the family of the people whose birthday it was. This was a child-friendly event. None of the songs we did, none of the music
Is that
we did.
Clantley SCAD?
that's an adult venue and that's an adult event.
Okay. Yeah. So in terms of material like this being made available in the public domain,
Sure.
do you think that some level of censorship should apply to a person who's coming? No?
Well, what about celebrities? They take nude photos all the time.
Yeah, but they don't post them on Facebook where anybody can look them up.
Girl, have you been on Twitter? Have you been on Instagram, Facebook? People take topless photos all the time. Little Nas X in his video, Madonna, Lady Gaga, Beyonce, everyone takes inappropriate photos, but of course, queer people are always the scapegoat.
So that can I ask you this question?
Sure.
So again, being a friend of Cougar, I'm not sure if it's Cougar or Clint or friends of both. If Cougar or Clint says that it doesn't matter what persona I mean, in terms of public comments, that's social innuendo. It doesn't matter whether I'm assuming a male or a female, that I like to stick things in my mouth.
Sure.
You know, and I guess, you know, as adults, we could quite clearly draw.
But did Cougar actually say that, or is that something you're assuming she said?
Oh well, are you familiar with Twitter?
Yeah.
So I'm sure, as a friend of Cougar's, if you jump on Cougar's Twitter page, you'll see that exact quote.
Sure. Whereabouts?
Sorry.
And what does the tweet actually specifically say?
Regardless of which gender I'm portraying, I still love things in my mouth.
Yeah, but you don't know what she's talking about.
So,
should we talk about food?
I'm just
Should we
saying.
talk
So
about trees?
whatever. It's
That's you making an assumption.
No, I'm not
That's
making an
absolutely
assumption. I'm
well,
saying,
it doesn't say
as an
anything
adult,
disgusting in that
as
tweet.
an adult, if you were to try and explain that to a child,
Yeah.
how would you explain that meaning to a
Just
child?
say she likes food, she likes drinks.
Okay.
She doesn't anywhere specifically say anything disgusting.
Could you explain this to a child?
Sure.
That just to be clear, that trans women are women.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how would you explain that a trans woman is a woman?
If someone identifies as a woman, that makes them a woman. I do not get to comment on anyone's gender or gender expression. If you say you're a man, I go, I believe you. Because it's not my business. Just like Drag Queen Storytime is not anyone's business.
So you subscribe, and I appreciate your frankness and comments and things. And this is one of the things. The position statement of City of Perth was to encourage an open dialogue, but we haven't been able to get that. So I think thank you for your comments as a friend of Cougar saying.
But also, how do you think an open comment is going to happen when stuff like a Drag Queen Storytime, so innocent, is met with all of this bullshit?
Do you think?
I swear on this, sorry.
Yeah, sure. That's,
like all this.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, what you've just said is way more polite than some of the things that.
I just think like there are so many worse things in the world than a drag queen reading stories to children, and the fact that people are saying that drag queens are grooming children and that we're pedophiles and that we're disgusting is completely ludicrous.
But I'm not putting those questions to you, and I'm not saying that. What I'm putting to you and the comments I'm asking are things that I know and can prove. You've asked me to show you, I've showed you. Comments that Cougar Morrison, your friend, or Clint, whichever light you, has put out as a public figure in the public domain. And that is, I guess you can't speak to the mindset of Cougar, but I guess in terms of the professional, and it takes a lot to do some of these photos, you know, to do that. I get it. I really do. Yeah, absolutely. But if a 4-year-old upstairs now was to ask Cougar, are you a mummy or a daddy?
Yep.
Would you have any insight, being a close friend, as to...
I would say that's totally up to Cougar how she wants to answer that question. I'm not Cougar Morrison, so I can't answer those questions for Cougar Morrison.
So what about the actual environment of putting a 4-year-old where they actually have to try and interpret whether, you know...
I think that children are very perceptive, and I think a lot of the people in this sort of protest right now are making a lot of assumptions about children when they really shouldn't. And if a child comes up to the parent and says, "Mum, what's Cougar?" I think that's totally up to the parent's discretion of how they want to parent their own child.
So I guess that the common ground there is that you would feel that it's the parent's role to answer that question.
Sure.
And
or
you
if
would
they ask Cougar straight out, then it's Cougar's decision on what she wants to say. I don't think anyone should make any assumptions or make any comments about Cougar or how Cougar wants to portray herself or her opinions.
If Cougar had the opportunity to make a post talking about life is like sperm again. Do you think Cougar, with the benefit of time, would probably make that sort of comment, or
I can't comment for what Cougar is going to post in the future. I think if Cougar wants to do it, she will.
Sure. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate. Certainly polite. Thank you very much. So there we go. Some comments that we've obtained there, and just going to double check behind the camera just to make sure.
It's been going.
Okay, so the stream is still going well, so I appreciate that. We've got some. Sorry, my tongue's sticking to the roof of my mouth. So we've asked for some comments on one side. We're probably going to just move around and just see if we can just get some comments on this side. Hello, can anybody like to make a comment? Am I able to ask you a comment?
We all know what we're here for.
Okay, yeah. And just to be clear, so one of the things that the City of Perth said in their position statement about this particular event is that they wanted to encourage open dialogue. Do you think that you felt that you've had the opportunity to engage in open dialogue today?
None whatsoever.
And do you, in relation to, I guess, the recommended age group that the City of Perth, actually, in fact, I have it right here, recommended for age groups 2 to 8 years old. What do you think about that?
Absolutely wrong.
And do you think that it's possible that a professional drag queen, a public figure, is able to separate their persona as a drag performer and when they're reading stories to children?
No comment on that.
No?
I wouldn't know. Probably not.
If I said to you that Cougar in public, what would you feel? Cougar Morrison, as a public figure on a social media page, that's Cougar, made this social media comment: life is like a bucket of sperm, sometimes you just have to suck it up. Do you think that a person who makes a post of this nature is able to, with conscience, sit down and read stories to a 2 to 8 year old children?
Definitely not. Should be banned away from that, from the kids, children and offspring.
One of the things that we asked the City of Perth by their position statement, and let me just find it here, is that the City of Perth have said that they have, they're looking to align, this aligns with their vision to create a vibrant, livable and inclusive city. We're also committed to our LGBTQIA+ plan, which underpins dedication to ensuring delivery of inclusive programming. If that's a plan in a public space, which means, I guess the question would be, would you think that the councillors that sit on, the elected councillors sit in the City of Perth, should be mindful of a plan of this nature?
Definitely.
Do you think that this plan should be public knowledge?
Definitely.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments. So there we go, and I guess as we're just moving through, we'll just see if we can get a few more comments just here. Hello there. We're just asking, anybody like to comment? Are we able to? So we are live streaming. So we're just trying to say. Firstly, if I can just kick off and say, and those watching the stream would have already done this. I've been asking questions on both sides.
You always do, Lindsay.
And in relation to this,
which is good.
Thank you very much. The City of Perth put out a position statement in relation to this, and they ended this by saying that they want to encourage, through open dialogue and understanding, that will continue to grow and serve the community better. My first question is: do you feel that there's been open dialogue? The open dialogue from this particular event today by the City of Perth?
I think it's been pretty one-sided in the respect that they're recommending 2 to 8 year olds to learn about transgenderism, where they should be concentrating on being children. So, and my biggest problem, and the reason why I'm here, I have no problem with anybody that's trans or gay or whatever over the age of 18. Drag shows in from my life, and I've seen them, has been in nightclubs and over 18. I have no problem with that. Children 2 to 8 are so impressionable, and they can play with boys' toys and girls' toys. It doesn't mean they're a boy or a girl. I just want my grandchildren to grow up to be able to be kids. And then when they're 18, if they feel that that's what they need to do, then 100%. But, you know, the most important thing is to let children be children.
I just, and I agree with your sentiments there. Well, these things do make it quite slippery to hold on to. I am going to come back to one. So I will just hold, hang on a minute. I will just take that one. I'm just going to challenge you in the interest of fairness with something that you said.
Yes.
I think the portrayal of this event is a drag queen reading stories to children. Mm-hmm. Now, talking about gender ideology, I don't think that that's something...
And did you have a list of the books that were getting read?
So no, and that's a fair question as well, because we did actually ask, and we came here an hour earlier to speak to the event organiser. They kept us waiting for half an hour. She said she was coming out, she didn't. So I just want to... I'm not trying to change track or with a gotcha moment.
The biggest problem is as well, you know, the drag that's reading, her name's Cougar Morrison or Cougar something. Now, I mean, you know, in slang, Cougar is somebody that's attracted to younger people. So, again, I feel that if the name...
Well, yeah, so Cougar is, I guess, an adult female who has an attraction to younger men or boys.
Explaining, you know, to a young child, 2 to 8, well, what the name Cougar is and why they're called that. I mean, you know, how far do you take it?
Yeah. Do you think that as a professional drag performer like Cougar Morrison...
They should be in a nightclub over 18 and not reading to children 2 to 8.
Do you think they can separate their persona when they're reading to children?
Not with that name.
What about making comments in public? When you make a comment in public, do you think as a public figure that you should be able to stand by that, or feel in order to do something like this, a paid gig, that you should retract things that might be controversial?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, children 2 to 8 are impressionable, and that's why I'm here, because I have grandchildren and I don't want somebody to impressionate them on any way. Let children be children.
So this is Cougar Morrison. This is an extract of Cougar Morrison's off their Twitter page.
I have seen that.
Saying, yeah, life is like a bucket of sperm. Sometimes you have to just suck it up. Now, we spoke to one of Cougar's friends, a close friend of Cougar Morrison, who said it's a little unfair to talk about this. This, he said, was about 4 years ago. But I guess the point is that I put to him, a public figure putting this on a page, how can a person, you know, what do you think about that comment?
I think, again, it belongs in an 18 plus, and he's an adult, he's a man, he can talk to his opinion, but not, you know, to be then reading stories to children and not knowing the content of what's being read in books, because I've also seen some very scary books that again, they're impressionable.
One of the questions we had for the City of Perth was to ask about their plan, and did the plan consider things like grandparent child story time,
exactly.
pastor story time, or anything of that nature?
Yeah.
We weren't able to get those answers there, but I guess
it would be great if they had grandparents and great-grandparents reading stories to younger children, because not everybody's got grandparents alive to have that ability to do that. So I think that would be more appropriate. But again, it's just the whole gender thing. I mean, these days people can't even say what a woman is, an adult human female. And putting on...
Well, according to Cougar Morrison, in a tweet that Cougar did not that long ago, I can bring it up here and show you, Cougar Morrison is of the view that a trans woman is a woman.
And the fact is that they're not, you know, and the fact you can put on a dress, you can put on makeup, you can dress up, and you're a store man. You don't have the biology of a woman. I was a hairdresser for 30 years. I even managed a company that did eyelashes and wigs, and we had drags come in. I've even been a judge at drag shows. I have nothing against it in an 18+
just the location
environment.
Absolutely.
You know? And they're right, and I respect their right, as they respect me as a woman, and the fact that I am a biological woman.
I want to just, I'm going to part and move and get some other comments if I can. As an adult, a person that has experienced some life, what do you think of this? Quote, regardless of which gender I'm portraying, I still love things in my mouth.
It's disgusting. And, you know...
If I said to you that he's talking about food, What do you say?
Well, there's an innuendo there, and look, common sense tells you that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments. We are live streaming. I'm going to come back to you. Just so, guys, can we get a comment? No? Okay. Guys, any chance? Yeah, no, we are live streaming, so if you don't want to go.
What's there to say? It's just like it's disgusting. Yeah.
Well, I just perhaps would you, if we don't put you on camera, but I just ask you a question, would you be happy to? How about I ask you the question first? Do you think that Cougar Morrison would be able to, that's the drag performer that's inside, separate their persona as a professional drag performer to reading stories to children aged 2 to 8?
She's there as Cougar Morrison, so no, she can't.
Okay. And in terms of the mindset and the persona, as a public figure, this is Cougar Morrison off their Instagram saying that life is a bucket of sperm and sometimes you just have to suck it up. Do you think that's appropriate mindset? This is the very person that's sitting up there now reading stories to children aged between 2 and 8 years old. Are you happy to comment to that?
What's there to say?
The mind boggles?
This is not... we wouldn't have Playboy stripper story hour. So why are we having this? It's sexualisation of children. There's not much more to say, and it's a public library. It shouldn't be happening.
And that's so again. I mean, the camera's that way, but your audio's going out. So you're happy with that? Yep. So and I guess the other thing is, we came down. We tried to speak to the event organiser. They've put out a position statement in relation to this, and those watching the live stream will well know what I'm about to say. And that is that the City of Perth wanted to encourage open dialogue. Do you think that you've seen open dialogue from the City of Perth today? To try and explain their mindset with an event like this?
Oh, they would just tell it to the Channel 7 or Channel 9, whoever's there. They'll spin it that way. They don't need to talk to us. Why would they talk to us?
Yeah. And I guess that's the beauty about live streaming, right? Because it's raw, it's real, it's unedited, and I'm
not sure if we saw somebody from the library before talking to the cameras, a director or something.
We came in about they may have spoken to mainstream media. They told us they were coming down to speak to us. They kept us waiting for half an hour. We went in to follow up, and then they couldn't even come out and tell us no. So I guess, but we did have some questions because in their position statement again, they said that the City of Perth actually has a plan for inclusiveness of these type of things. And we wanted to ask questions in relation to diversity for young children. What does that plan look like? Did it go to council? And did they consider things like a senior citizen story time, perhaps veterans who may be able to, impart some life experience, and most veteran who's, most of vets.
That sounds awesome. Even maybe something from law enforcement to rebuild that relationship between young people.
There you go.
Police,
which
is, young people absolutely hate the police and law enforcement, and it's all bad blood now.
And I appreciate you didn't want to go on camera, but you have given some comments. I just want to. My last question to you is this: do you think, as a professional drag performer, that Cougar Morrison is positioned well enough to answer the question? If one of these 4-year-olds was to ask Cougar, "Are you a mummy or a daddy?"
So what was the question? What?
So
it's a bloke in a dress. I don't understand the question.
Okay, I think that's enough said. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Sure.
How did they get the working with children card?
So look, I mean,
don't you have to have a character that's beyond reproach to be able to work with children?
Well, no, I think my understanding of children working with children's cards. I mean, I have one myself, and it just goes on criminal convictions, and it's the type of convictions that they're, that are of a sexual nature, or something that may be a conviction. I don't quote me on this, but this is how my understanding would be. I mean, if you've done a break and an enter, I don't think, whilst that may not be, the best thing, but if you've been committed to stalking or, an offence of snow dropping, I'm not sure if you know what snow dropping is, jumping suburban fences, stealing women's underwear.
Oh, okay, yep. I haven't heard of that.
Oh, there you go. So I'm glad I've able to, yeah. But
as far as I'm concerned, this is the thin edge of the wedge.
well, I mean, maybe I'll go ask the police, and I'll see. But yeah. So look, I think it's possible that working with children's class, card can be issued. Yep. But my question is this: it comes back to this: as a public figure on social media, is it appropriate antecedents the mindset of a person that they do post like this and now they're reading stories to children? That's my question.
Yeah. Well, back in the day, teachers actually had to pass a character test before they become teachers. That's why I was thinking of the working with children card. Yeah. Absolutely not. That should, but then you're looking at as I actually looked at who's going in there and taking their kids in there. How many of them are rainbow families? How many of those kids have grown up and been boxed out of having a dad or a mum just for the donor system?
Yeah,
it's a bigger, but that's the thin edge of the wedge, is what I'm saying. But
we did see groups of children coming in. To be honest, I wouldn't ask the parents because I just think this is enough for a child to kind of think, hang on a minute, it just doesn't feel right, it doesn't sit right, and I wouldn't want to do that. It's not about that. Hence, we're trying to get the comments from the adults. So, yeah. But thank you, I appreciate...
Normal families up there anyway. Yeah, that's the thing.
Thank you very much. G'day, good. Hello. So we are live streaming. Happy to get a comment? Can I? No, okay. Hello there. So we are live streaming. So before we stream, I'm happy. We are live streaming. You happy if I ask you a couple of questions?
Yeah, I don't want to be.
So.
I don't want to be.
A good looking fellow like yourself, you should be well and truly out here. So can I just ask you? So I mean, why are you here today? That's. I'm going to kick off with that.
I don't have any problem with gay people. I just have a problem with drag queens reading to children. I just don't see what the purpose is. If children want to be entertained, you'd think it would just be, someone dressed up as a cat or a dog or something child-friendly. I would think that drag queens would scare children, and I think it's part of a larger agenda that has nothing to do with entertaining the children.
And I think, scared, I get what you mean by that, but I guess there'd probably be greater acceptance if we say confusing for children.
It would be confusing for children.
So if a 4-year-old up there now, and I've put this question to a number of people, was to ask Cougar Morrison or Clint in his male form, are you a mummy or a daddy? I mean, I've asked, in fact, Cougar's best friend and a lifetime friend who said, don't really see an issue with children being put in that position. What would you say about that? That a child has to work out, I don't know whether you're a mummy or a daddy.
Well, they're literally children. They can't make that decision. It's too confusing. And at the moment, I just want to note, there are police officers standing around these children as they hear these stories from the drag queen. That in itself is completely inappropriate for children.
Look, I think, there's, on one hand, we've had comments saying the fact that the police are here and they're video recording it is a good safety protection mechanism.
Maybe out here, but not in there.
Well, it's been recorded in there.
Yeah.
So the library have given us that official comment. Okay. But I guess my point is this, is that has it been sterilised of the performance, the story reading that Cougar might be doing because of this today?
I think it's all a show. I don't think that they're here to entertain children at all. I think this is a publicity stunt for the LGBT agenda or whatever they're doing. Yeah. I know a lot of people who are LGBT and they disagree with this as well. I think it's just a whole stunt. I don't even know why they're doing it, to be honest.
My last question, do you think that a professional drag queen performer is able to separate their persona enough to when they're talking to children as opposed to performing in front of adults?
Well, then I think being a drag queen is about the humour of being a drag queen. If they want to separate personalities and read to children, then why not dress up as a children's character and keep the drag queen stuff out of it?
And that raises a very interesting point that you make there, that it's about the humour of dressing up as a drag queen, and that humour is able to be understood in front of children, in front of other adults, not children. I think you make a very good point there. I just want to ask you this. This is Cougar Morrison, social media, public figure. This quote here, and this is the "life is a bucket of sperm." So I've said it enough. So what that Cougar Morrison, or sorry, I shouldn't say that. Cougar Morrison, or Clad Steinberg, is now reading stories to children. The separation of a person of that mindset, the innuendo that conjures up, is up there now. What do you say about that?
I think this has absolutely nothing to do with entertaining children. I think it's a sick and twisted agenda. Clearly. I shouldn't have to say that. This is totally obvious. You can see by all the people here that we're all of the same mindset, except for a very extreme minority who are over there.
Yeah. Do you think it's unfair that I pull that out of social media, and that quote was one that Cougar made about 4 years ago?
No, not at all. He or whatever is still in the same public space, still doing the same role. They're still acting as a drag queen, whether it's in children or in front of adults. She's still doing the exact same role of being a drag queen and promoting this. Disgusting material.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments.
Thank you very much. It's like a two-way street.
Did you want to make it?
Can do.
So, well, we've been asking comments on both sides of the argument, and you're clearly on this side, which is you're anti this event. That's probably the simplest form. So, what's brought you here today?
Well, I've got kids of my own, and I don't think they should be indoctrinated with material like they display up there. It's sexualisation of kids. You don't do that.
One of we tried to get a comment from the City of Perth. Their position statement about this event was talking about open dialogue, and they also talked about that this is part of their LGBTQIA+ plan, the community plan. My first question is, have you seen much open dialogue from the City of Perth about their mindset of why they would hold an event like this today?
No, definitely not. But it's very one-sided for them to even do that. The fact that they're running it for between 2 to 8 year olds.
That's the targeted demographic that the City of Perth on their Facebook website posted clearly 2 to 8 year olds. Yep.
Absolutely. I think we can all agree that we don't really care what happens behind closed doors in a home, but when it comes to...
Or at an adult venue, performance venue, like the Court Hotel or Connections, knock yourself out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what they're there for, so that they can do what they want to do when they want to do. But don't drag little children into an event like this and expose them to adult content. It's not right.
I mentioned that the City of Perth have a plan in relation to this. My question is asking, that we wanted to ask, and they told us they were going to give comment, but then they kept us waiting and said no. Firstly, has the elected councillors seen this plan, approved this plan? And the second part of my question would be to you, would you like to see that a plan of trying to be more inclusive for young children would include things like senior citizen storytime selling, perhaps veteran storytime selling, even any number of the police here who are able to perhaps read a story, and the police, have a lot of ground, I guess, to make up because mum and dad say, if you get in trouble, I'll call the police, that sort of thing. Would you like to see that in there?
Absolutely. I think that's what we need in a community. But as we're seeing, not just in Perth, but around the country at the moment, is an extreme amount of information, money spent going into indoctrinating kids based on woke theory, and it's not incorporating our day-to-day and our community-based people. It's only focusing on one minority group, and it's ramming it down their throats I don't know what they're trying to do, but what it clearly shows that it's an attempt at brainwashing somehow. Those children are at a time when they're soaking in information. If you're exposing that type of behaviour to kids, what are you going to see when they grow up? Are they going to be start being in a sexually orientated at a very young age, and then you're going to start seeing that spew out into our communities, and they're just not going to be innocent anymore. You're going to take away that innocence.
So my parting question is, with this event today, and I know that a number of people have written into the community, so the City of Perth, what would you like to have seen the City of Perth done in relation to this event today?
Well, definitely not run it with kids at that age. Like, if you want to run story time for consenting adults, and the age of consent, obviously, in Perth is 18 up. Other states, territories, countries is 21. But if these kids can't consent to it, you shouldn't be running it. If you want to run it to an adult population that can think for themselves and can consent, that's their problem. We don't have a problem with that. But don't indoctrinate our kids. Don't drag our kids into and force this stuff down their throats. Let them get to an age where they can decide what they want to do as adults.
As adults. That was, and that is the age. If I said to you in Queensland and Western Australia has it in the pipeline. The bills are coming down the pipeline. I can certainly assure you of that. But Queensland have looked at introducing legislation that if a parent misgenders a child, that Children Protective Services now have the power to take that child away from the parent.
Well, that's just garbage.
If a child goes to a doctor that's deemed to be of mature mindset, as long as that can be established and there's no legal framework to actually establish that in that arena, but in a criminal sense, children from 10 to 14 are criminally responsible. If they know what they did was wrong, then they're criminally responsible. So let's just say from 10 years old, you understand the concept, goes to a doctor and says that I want to transition, that the doctor is looking to face fines and sanctions if they don't look at chemical transitioning for that child.
Cool. Okay, so that's changed the age of drinking responsible age there. Now let's let them start driving cars. Let's let them live on their own, and let's start with our leaders' children first. So let's start with Mark McGowan's kids and Dan Andrews' kids. Let's start there first and see how that goes. Now, if they smash into a tree, well, it's not our problem. They were of an age of that where they could consent. So where's your argument, mate? You don't have an argument. It's ridiculous in every sense.
Yeah. So that so you would be opposing any legislation that comes in that would essentially sanction clip doctors' wings to say that a doctor cannot allow that child to get through puberty without chemical transitioning prior to 18 years of age.
Well, it's just another form of tying up doctors again. They've already taken away the fact that doctors can give information to their patients which best serves their patients. The first do no harm has been taken away. This is just
the Hippocratic Oath.
Way. Yeah, this is just another way to tying doctors' hands behind their backs where they can't make educated, informed decisions for what's best for their patients. That's what that is.
Okay, there we go. So thank you very much. I appreciate your comments, and it's certainly we've asked questions on both sides, and it seems that this side of the fence, whilst the passion is there, it's spoken, without swearing and insults and aggression. Thank you very much.
Well, that's also another thing. I said clearly we're seeing a lot of swearing come from the other side. Now, if they're reading to children and the children are hearing that inside the building, what example is that setting to the children?
I think, very good point. What example? So there we go. So, on that note, we might wind up the stream.
We've been targeted. Lindsay's hunting us.
Well, are we? Aren't we? So those that would have seen any number of streams that I've done with the pro-choice, I am going to stand this way because of the sun, but
I've got a hat.
And I'm a little bit taller, I can cast a shadow. So would know, Travis Carter from the pro-choice anti-mandate rallies. Travis, you've come here with your wife.
Yep, and the kids.
And the kids.
And the growths.
Why are you not taking your children up to read, to hear some stories being told by a drag queen?
I'm not getting into a heap of trouble for this one, but I
feel that drag is something.
And I should say, I'm going to premise we are live streaming.
Yeah, that's all right.
So
she'll interrupt, but that's okay. So to me, drag and the whole drag queen scene is for adults. And the biggest problem that I have with this one is I don't want my kids anywhere near it. And people need to understand that the whole purpose of teaching kids, especially in a library, is to teach kids. It's not to go get your sexual fetishes on or do anything like that. You want to go draw, honey? Okay, hang on, I'll put you down, but stay close. And jump. Oh. And so, she's... Estelle? Sorry about this, guys.
That's okay. This is live streaming, and
don't work with Aaron.
This is yeah, pets or
Aaron. No.
Oh, sorry.
So the whole premise of this is they're promoting a sexual act within a Perth library, which is supposed to be for kids. It's not designed to get your rocks off. Like, I don't care what people say, oh, drag's not about a sexual fetish or anything like that. It is. Let's have a look at Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. That whole program,
which Cougar Morrison was actually a part of Priscilla,
was
Queen.
He really?
Yeah, Clint was a part of that. And, sorry, that's Clint Steinberg. That's Cougar, yep. Was part of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Yep, sorry.
So, like, that whole movement, that's pretty much what kicked it off in Australia. That whole movement was purely about sexual expression. So it just does my head in that this is a taxpayers funded building. So this is my tax, your tax, everyone's tax is paying to promote someone's sexual fetishes. And this is insane. The government in WA has just totally lost the plot on this one. And it's the thing that you'll notice, there's not a single Liberal person here. So the only party that's actually been brave enough to stand up against this sort of stuff is One Nation. And yeah, woo-hoo.
And I guess we had some pre-arranged events when Posey Parker was here in Perth, Western Australia. We did see One Nation there as well. Sophia Moymont did speak at that rally, and we have all seen in terms of the Liberal Party what they've done with Moira Deeming in expelling her. So probably explains the reason why the Liberals, if that's the mindset, I guess, the state of the nation is voiceless without some substance in terms of standing up for an issue. Travis, I'm going to get to a question, and my question is this. The City of Perth said that this is part of a plan, that they have a plan that is looking for diversity and inclusiveness of all demographics, but including children.
So first of all, I call bullshit on that whole plan because I've actually read it. If you're a straight white male who's a Christian, you're totally excluded from that plan. Full stop. Pretty much, if you're male, full stop.
So you've read you obtained a copy.
Yep. So it's anything but inclusive. And
do you think that plan should be public record? That's a public document, and it should be readily available.
It is. You can get it through the Perth.
Do you think that the
Perth Council website? You can actually get it off the Perth Council website.
Okay, so it's on
12 months ago, you could get it off the Perth Council website. So, like with the COVID mandates, that's all been removed off the government websites now. So it could still be there, but I haven't checked for about 12 months. Yeah. But I can get another copy if you want one.
Travis, so do you think it's possible that a professional drag performer should be able to separate their mindset when they're performing with adults and reading stories to children?
Could a stripper separate their mindset when performing for adults versus performing for children?
Yeah.
No, they can't. Because it's the act of dressing up as the opposite gender which is the turn-on for them. So how would you remove a turn-on for something that you're doing intentionally to turn you on?
For a person that has been in the public eye, in the public space, and I guess you need a thick skin for that.
Yeah.
And I guess if you put a statement out in public and a comment, do you think that you should stand by that?
The biggest problem with that is when you make a comment, you go base it off what you know at the time. And this is one of the things I really do respect Pauline for. If someone comes to her and gives her new information that wasn't available before, she will change her mind. And I think people have to be able to sit there, have an open discussion about these things and be able to change their mind depending on the information that came out. So like the government, again, I hate to bring it back to COVID, but they've gone, no, COVID is bad, we have to do everything we can. And we're going, no, there's an insane amount of study and research showing that COVID is weak and it's not going to kill many people, but yet they still refuse to listen to what was going on. They refuse to listen to the people. And the same thing's happening here. If you get someone from the LGBT community or one of the progressives or the Greens going, oh, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, all of a sudden Labor, Liberals, the Greens, the Nationals, they all fall in line. So at the moment,
there's no pushback.
There literally is no pushback, but they're not discussing things in an open forum. Like, for example, one of the guys I was talking to here was complaining, apparently someone was giving a Nazi, like behaving like a twat and giving the Nazi symbol. What would have happened if they were having a Nazi rally here? Can you imagine the blowback that would have happened from that? So if the City of Perth is saying they don't be truly inclusive, not only the far left thing should be promoted, but why aren't the far right being promoted?
Well, that's if you're wanting to categorise far left and far right. So I want to take your mind back.
Would that be inclusive?
Well, it would be inclusive, but I'm talking about the categories of the labels that are being applied.
Spot on.
I mean, how did we get there? A comment said 4 years ago, do you think this is the very person, Clint or Cougar Morrison, off his Instagram account? And for the viewers, again, they would know this well and truly.
Hey, Lauren, can you cover the kids' ears?
So no, we won't read it out for because
we'll hold it up.
Yeah, so we'll hold it up. Travis, your comment on that?
So this was on Twitter and Instagram.
It still is.
It still is.
Although some of them, because Cougar Morrison on the 28th of March this year, again the viewers would know that.
The biggest problem is Twitter and Instagram have a 13 plus rating. So that means kids, and they're kids, they're not adults. If you're a 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old, you're a kid, you are not an adult. So you're now, Twitter, Facebook, all of the social media platforms really need to have a good hard look at themselves, because that is, in my opinion, kiddie porn. That is highly inappropriate.
And you're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah, because this is being pushed to minors. If I turn around and hit on a minor, I'd be in jail instantly. So this guy's allowed to say this sort of crap in front of minors?
Well, I mean, it's you know, again, if you come back to COVID, you got a 30-day ban for mentioning a drug that was prohibited. But
I won't say it. I'll be nice to you.
You know, you can, I guess, and just how quickly things have changed now that the WHO have declared worldwide the.
Did he really say that? Like,
he's really said that. Yep. And we spoke to Cougar's a very good close personal friend who actually admitted that this was said 4 years ago, but did say that it's very unfair for me to bring this back up now because it was said 4 years ago.
Didn't like 20 years ago Trump say grab it by the woohoo, and then they brought that back
up? And they've just had it, yeah. So, so there we go. So, Travis Carter, thank you very much for your comments. Always a pleasure.
Thanks
and
for coming down.
yeah, my tongue is about to stick to the roof of my mouth. And I think on that note, I'm just going to go over to the City Library, do a sign off. Thank you very much for those that have watched in, you know, behind the scenes. Because of the event that happened last time in terms of Posey Parker, we're just going to get, in terms of the resource, a quick pan around to look at the security in relation to a child-friendly event. I guess, you know, and how can you honestly make sense and explain to a child that's coming to any event where they see it, and it doesn't matter what that event is, when there is a large police presence of this nature. I think, you know, human instinct, I'm trying to get out of the sun here, human instincts would tell you that something is not right when you look at this type of environment, yet, you know, and the crux of this event and for this police presence, the additional ranger support presence, the 6 security staff presence, is because the City of Perth have what they call a child-friendly event for children aged between 2 and 8 years old by a person called Cougar Morrison. Again, and I've put enough out there to show who, you know, this is Cougar Morrison. Cougar Morrison's, you know, if I went up to the police and said that there's a man in the library reading this to children, you would want to know, what would the police do? Would the police act if this was being read and there was a man in the library reading this out to children? Would the police act? You'd like to think so, but in this state, I guess they're doing their best to segregate the two. So on that note, thank you very much for those that have watched this stream and jumped on. Thank you to those that have commented. And behind the scenes, Clayton has been passing on your feedback to those that we have obtained comments to. We got comments from both sides of the arguments, and I guess in fairness to those that spoke without having to swear, raise their voice and be aggressive, you can only thank them for their input, because that's what we tried to achieve from the outset. Open dialogue, something that we haven't actually received. So on that note, I think I'm just about done. I'm absolutely parched. Yeah, parched is the word. And from myself, and we have Clayton and a person who shall be named, not be named, behind the scenes. We had to put another person on today behind a camera, purely just for our protection, because Clayton, who's behind the camera, he was assaulted at the Posey Parker event, where we had a pre-arranged interview with MLC Nick Goren, and whilst we were making our way around, we just got 10 minutes of Posey Parker. We got a lot of footage with that, and the police, we had our equipment damaged. We still weren't able to run our main camera rig today because of the parts that were damaged there, and the police to date have done absolutely nothing about following up in relation to the assaults that Clayton and Bill received from that event. So we put another person behind the scenes to ensure that if anything did happen, that we would at least have as much evidence as we possibly could, so that it would be unavoidable and inexcusable if the police didn't take action. On that note, myself, from Lindsay, Clayton, and I'm not getting whether, thank you very much for joining the live stream, and stay tuned for more from News for You, brought to you by Freedom Media WA.